What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this, you already know something big is brewing across the country. And let me tell you, this one is shaping up to be absolutely massive. We're talking about a winter storm setup that I genuinely cannot remember seeing in a very long time. The scope of this thing is incredible. Winter storm warnings are stretched from New Mexico all the way up to the Northeast. And if that wasn't enough, we've got ice storm warnings flanking the southern edge of this system from East Texas through Tennessee, snaking up into the Carolinas, and even touching northern Georgia. This is going to be a wild ride over the next 48 to 72 hours, so buckle up because I'm breaking down everything you need to know. But here's the thing I want to be upfront about. While a lot of areas are locked in for significant impacts, there are some zones where I think we could see a pretty decent bust. And yes, that includes parts of the Northeast. So stick around because we're going to dig into exactly where I think confidence is high and where things might not pan out the way the models are suggesting. Let's start down south and work our way up. Texas is about to get slammed with a messy combination of snow and ice spreading across the state. As we push through Saturday, the overnight hours into early morning are when things really start ramping up. We're looking at freezing rain, sleet, and snow pushing further north into sections of Missouri. The precipitation types are going to be all over the place depending on your exact location, which is why this setup is so tricky to nail down. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now, let's move on. Now here's where it gets really interesting. As we roll into Sunday, the entire mess shifts eastward. Sunday morning is going to be particularly nasty from Roanoke down through Charlotte into the upstate of South Carolina and across northeast Georgia. Freezing rain and sleet are going to be major players across Kentucky and Tennessee as well. If you're anywhere from Memphis to Nashville and back toward Little Rock, you're looking at ice being the primary concern. There's going to be a snow, sleet, and freezing rain mix with some areas transitioning to snow on the backside of the system as colder air floods in. Meanwhile, the heavy snow machine really cranks up across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. I could sit here and name every single state impacted, but honestly, we'd be here all night. The coverage on this thing is just that extensive. But let me pause here and talk about something important. Right along the coast, and I'm specifically talking about New York City and Long Island, I think there's an extremely high bust potential for snow totals. We're going to get into the details on that in just a minute because I know a lot of you are watching from that region and wondering what's actually going to happen. Let's look at the numbers. Starting across the southern plains and into parts of the deep south, we're expecting some seriously heavy icing. Louisiana and Mississippi are in the crosshairs for significant ice accumulation. Some of these areas could see more than an inch of ice, and that is not something to take lightly. An inch of ice brings down trees, snaps power lines, and makes travel virtually impossible. The official forecast across northern Mississippi, right along the Tennessee border, is showing more than an inch of ice accumulation. This isn't just model data either. These are touched-up numbers from the National Digital Forecast Database, meaning forecasters have actually looked at this and said, yes, this is what we expect. That heavy icing extends back into northern Mississippi and then westward into Texas. As the cold air surges in, any rain showers will transition to freezing rain and sleet. Snow totals are going to be highest to the north. The Dallas area could pick up a couple of inches, same story over toward Texarkana. Shreveport, you're looking at more freezing rain than snow. But get up into Oklahoma, and that's where the snow really piles up. We could see more than a foot from central Oklahoma northward to the Kansas border. The heavy snow band then shifts east into the southern half of Missouri and dips down into northern Arkansas before pushing into southern Illinois. Don't forget about the mountains either. Parts of the Colorado and New Mexico high country could see a foot, maybe even a foot and a half of snow. You've got to get up pretty high in elevation, but for those mountain communities, this is going to be a significant event. Let's keep moving east. The Ohio River Valley is looking at some impressive totals. Cincinnati appears to be in the 8 to 12-inch range based on current guidance. Louisville over to Lexington could see close to a foot. But watch how quickly those totals drop off across southern Kentucky. That's because we're going to see a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain, and the totals decrease dramatically across Tennessee where plain rain could mix in. That rain line might push further north than some people are expecting, which is part of why this forecast is so challenging. The freezing rain potential is highest across Kentucky down into Tennessee. Some locations could pick up a quarter to a half inch of ice. So picture this. You've got snow on the ground, but it's topped with a crusty, icy layer that gets worse the further south you go. Now, here's a change from earlier guidance. Chattanooga and the far southwestern corner of North Carolina, along with extreme northern Georgia, are now showing no snow accumulation. That's a pretty big shift. These areas are still likely to see some freezing rain, but the snow threat has really backed off. However, get up into the North Carolina mountains and it's a completely different story. We're expecting quite a bit of ice, up to half an inch or more in some spots. Southern Tennessee, back toward the area just southeast of Memphis and into northern Mississippi, is still looking at heavy icing. We're talking a quarter to half an inch of ice across a good portion of this region. Into Alabama and Georgia, not a lot of snow is expected, but freezing rain will definitely be a problem across northwest Alabama, northeast Alabama, and into Georgia. Atlanta and areas north, especially up toward Athens and northeast Georgia, will see some freezing rain. Greenville, Spartanburg, up to Asheville and Boone, all of these areas, especially on the eastern and central parts of the mountains, are going to see decent ice accumulation extending out onto the Piedmont. Down toward the Gulf Coast, it's just rain. But that freezing rain line could creep surprisingly far south into Louisiana and central Mississippi. South Carolina is where the real problems are going to be, and it's not the snow you need to worry about, it's the ice. Even Columbia down to Myrtle Beach looks like it stays liquid, but get inland just a little bit. Once you're up toward Conway and beyond, the ice becomes a major factor. This extends all the way up into North Carolina, where close to half an inch or more is possible along the Piedmont and out into the coastal plain. Virginia is going to see some serious snow. The Interstate 81 corridor northeast of Roanoke could exceed a foot, and the Greenbrier Valley of West Virginia is looking at significant accumulation as well. But even there, freezing rain is going to be a problem. Richmond might only see 3 to 5 inches of snow, but head north and west on Interstate 64 toward Charlottesville, and you could see 8 to 12 inches. Then it transitions to freezing rain, so the full precipitation won't fall as snow. That's why totals look lower in some areas than you might expect. Here's something fascinating from a meteorological standpoint. There's this wedge of warm air getting drawn out across West Virginia down into Tennessee. That warm air intrusion is going to transition the snow quickly over to freezing rain. Before that happens, eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia up toward Charleston could pick up a couple inches of snow. But northern West Virginia, from Wheeling back into southern Ohio, is where the snow really picks up. Columbus is looking at close to a foot. Pittsburgh has a good chance at nearly a foot as well. Somebody in Pennsylvania is going to see a foot and a half if they can stay all snow. Now look at the forecast map for Pennsylvania and New York. I honestly cannot remember the last time I've seen the entire state of both Pennsylvania and New York covered with 12 to 15-inch snow forecasts. Some locations in this zone could exceed 18 inches with this setup. That's remarkable. But here's where my concern comes in. The bust potential is right along the coast. New York City's official forecast is sitting at nearly 12 inches of snow right now. That's what the National Weather Service is going with. A foot of snow up into Connecticut, going up to 15 inches in some areas north of the city. However, I think there's a real chance this doesn't verify, especially right along the immediate coastline. Multiple models, including the NAM and the RRFS, are showing mixed precipitation pushing surprisingly far north. We're talking mixing into southern Connecticut, Long Island, into New Jersey, and it even shows rain down toward Cape May and into the Delmarva. If you mix precipitation from snow over to freezing rain and sleet, your snow totals decrease dramatically. So if there's a bust zone in this entire setup, my opinion is it's right there along the coast. Confidence grows significantly the further inland you go. Boston, I'd say confidence is pretty high, but that mixing line is concerning for coastal areas. Now let's talk about what happens after the storm. Cold air is flooding in behind this system, and it's going to be brutal. Monday brings below zero temperatures pushing surprisingly far south into Tennessee. By Monday night into Tuesday morning, below zero readings could be closing in on much of the mid-Atlantic. And there's more cold coming. Wednesday is looking at highs in the single digits with overnight lows below zero in some cases. Texas gets a brief reprieve since most of that cold pushes east, so they'll have a chance to warm up some by Tuesday. Looking further ahead, high pressure anchors across the west, keeping things quiet with just some light snow through the weekend. A little rain might move into California by Thursday or Friday. Another clipper system could bring a reinforcing shot of cold and light snow through the Ohio Valley. But what I'm really watching is the pattern heading into next weekend. Does something develop? Could it ride up the East Coast? Today's European model says no. The GFS isn't locking in on anything yet either, but there's energy out there that I think we need to keep an eye on. This is what makes weather forecasting so exciting and frustrating at the same time. The pattern is active. Things will change. We've got a long way to go before next weekend, but I think that period definitely bears watching.